Welcome to Black Girl Say Something, where this black girl has something to say. And happy October. Happy my birthday month. Happy, happy, happy. It's just really what I want to be, honestly. But before I get into the topic at hand, it's October 3rd. And on October 3rd, he asked me what day it was. Anywho, if you know, you know. Um, Officially 18 days to my birthday. I did not post an episode last week. Friday was kind of, that Friday was kind of a day I had like a mental breakdown, if you will. And not necessarily a breakdown, it was just a like, woe is me moment. And I'm just a girl and I'm entitled to having those. But it got me to thinking in that moment, in that situation, I got some news that I did not anticipate getting. I'm trying to work some things out and they just don't seem to be working out in my favor. I'm not quite sure what is the lesson to be learned. And so I had a moment, I cried, felt my feelings. But in that moment, I reached out to some people, and I hate to say this, but it's almost like, when you are going through something and you've gotten through something and then you tell people about the something that you're going through or just recently been through, and they're like, I didn't know you was going through all of that, why didn't you tell me? Last Friday gave me an indicator of why I don't be telling people. I'ma just be honest with you. Not people who are close to me. It's one thing to make a TikTok video about some life happening, some things that are happening that are impacting me negatively. It's another thing to get on here and just kind of vent to the listeners of the podcast. But when it comes down, and I don't know what type of response this is, right? Maybe it's time to get back in therapy, but essentially, I have the coping skills. I have the ability to maneuver through life, right? With the things that are happening around me, the things that are happening to me, and just what's happening in the world. Like, it gets to a point. It gets to a point where you cannot just rely on therapy, because at that point, therapy is now your crutch, it's your handicap. And you have to get to a place where, how are you going to utilize the things that you have done in therapy? For me, it is getting on here and talking on the podcast. For me, it is journaling, it is deep breathing, it is talking through my feelings, it is asking people for help. But it gets to a point. And so essentially, I had said, hey, this is what I'm going through. I need help. And a suggestion was given to me, and I was like, okay, cool. I look forward to your help. Do you know there's no follow through? There's no follow through, And then on top of that, it's like, why suggest that you can insinuate that you can help and not actually help? So, this is why your strong friend does not ask for help. This is why your strong family member does not ask you specifically for help. And in recent time, and I guess I'll title this episode, because I made it this far and I haven't titled this episode anything. I'll title this episode, The Village is Circumstantial. Because there's a conversation happening on TikTok where people are talking about, there's two conversations. One where people are saying, hey, the village doesn't exist. And another conversation where people are saying the reason why you don't have anybody in your village because you want to take advantage of people. And then there's the third conversation that I brought to the light and said, hey, do you not understand that the village is circumstantial? And I think essentially when we think about villages, when I think about my upbringing and being raised, the village was circumstantial. My mom had me fairly young, and the village would have been her great aunt who raised essentially me and her. My mom had me at 16, right? But I can't sit here and anticipate and say, hey, my mom is not helping me raise my kids because the village is circumstantial. My circumstance afforded me the opportunity to have my kids a little bit later in life. While yes, I still consider I had my children very young, I would not recommend anybody have children at the age that I had children. But the village is still circumstantial because even now, my mom, the roles have flipped. She is now taking care of the great aunt who has dementia. And there is no space or time in her schedule to actually take my kids for a weekend or a day. But also, life has changed. My children now have to spend their Saturdays, a couple of hours on their Saturdays, with their dad during supervised visits. The village is circumstantial. While I have help from my sisters who can pick my kids up here and there when I have to work, again, it's just when I have to work. I can't anticipate that they'll do it on my days off because the village is circumstantial, right? We can understand that people are seasonal in regards to it being negative. But if for some reason we cannot understand that people are seasonal when it comes to the positive, right? And I mentioned in that particular video, the circumstance of the village is determined by how much you may have needed at one point in your village versus how much you need at another point in your village. Just like the needs of your children. At some point, if you were a breastfeeding mother, I'm going to use breastfeeding for this example because I breastfed. At some point, you breastfed your child. You cannot anticipate that you breastfed your child if you did like me. You did extended breastfeeding. One breastfed till 3.5, one breastfed till 4.5, 5, 6, 7. They're 15 and 11. I can't anticipate that I still should have the ability to breastfeed them, right? So the village is circumstantial. The circumstances change. So does your needs. So does the ability of what your village can offer, right? And I just wanted to bring that to light. So in that same sense, when we're talking about asking for help and being that strong, independent person, that person who, for me, that person who never really asks anybody for help, it's almost like, okay, let me lean into the fact that, one, I've never been parented. So when I'm having a moment, honestly, I just want to call my parents, but they're not dead. They're very much alive. But I can't. I can't. And that it does bring up certain types of emotions that I've dealt with in therapy, emotions that I've grieved because I've often been told and I've worked through the fact that you have to grieve the fact that you won't have that. And so once you move past that and you grieve it, you don't want to necessarily raise your children through your traumas. You want to raise your children in spite of your trauma. So meaning I'm not going to I'm not going to get to a place where I help my children so much that I handicap them, but I will always be someone that they can call. Right? Does that make sense? I have to also understand when they want advice, when they want help, and when they just want a listening ear because of the circumstance, because depending on what they need, depending on what they want. But the topic of villages, some people thought that the village is mandatory, right? I use myself as an example. When I got pregnant at the tender age of like 21, I hadn't even been 21 long. When I got pregnant at that baby of an age, and I had been on my own for such a long time. I don't even think I was talking to my mom good enough in that moment. She probably was like blocked on Facebook or something, blocked in real life, because we would go through those moments, right? But I had been on my own, and in spite of me being on my own, I still was able to go to college, get a job, maneuver through life. And to someone looking outside, looking in, it's like, oh, she made it in spite of. But the reality is, what other choice did I have? Because I genuinely, at my core, just want to be successful. I don't want to be rich. I don't want to be famous. I don't want to be known in the way that for the glitz and the glam. I just want to be successful in my own right. Outside of a girl who was born to a mom that was 16. I'm about to be 38 years old this month. That is not something that I hold true to, right? My degrees are something that I hold true to because I worked hard. I didn't have anyone around me that I know that went this far in their education. I'm first generation. So with that being said, I worked hard, and yes, not obnoxiously, but literally speaking, if I'm speaking on a subject matter that is my expertise is going to shine through. Why? Because I have a doctorate in health science. That's just that. I am the subject matter expert on a number of things, and I've allowed myself to continue researching even after being done with school. So for that reason, I'm just, I'm working on some things. I'm looking to pivot. I'm looking to make a career pivot. Hopefully it kicks in for me so I can catch up on the things that I need to catch up on. There'll be some links in the description of this episode if y'all want to tap into my Amazon wish list for my birthday. It will be in the description of this episode. Honestly, follow me on TikTok. I want to get to 40,000 followers for my birthday. I think I can do it. I think it can be done. I'm getting invited to events, but they're out of town, and it's like I don't have the the funds to get to these places. So influencing is starting to, be in my back pocket. It is in the neighborhood for me. Because people do want to hear what this black girl has to say. And so that keeps it interesting. I do have a lot of information and lived experience that I bring to the podcasting space, I guess you can say. But going back to the point of the village, I got off topic. I don't want to rant. The village is circumstantial. Um, and so many people want villages and they're not villagers. They're not villagers. They're not willing to build within the village. They're not willing to contribute to the village. And nonetheless, I'm very communicative. I'm very open, honest. I'm very transparent with the people who ultimately are a part of my village. But I'm gonna just say sometimes it gets exhausting. And I get sad sometimes when I can't show up for people. But I also am very communicative in a way where I say, hey, I can't do this right now. Like it broke my heart that I couldn't make it to my friend's daughter's first birthday party. It is a distance away, but also I need two new back tires. And so I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it that distance because I need two back tires. I didn't like just not show up. I didn't make something up. I was honest and transparent, right? And I think more people need to get to a place to understand that if they are a part of a village, just be honest and transparent. If you make a suggestion for in a way that you lean in to think that you're going to help that person, why not just turn around and say, hey, I thought about it and that's not my ministry right now. That's all I'm asking for. That's all I'm looking for. But don't have me lingering in the wind because guess what? Now you're leaving me to go back to the internal space and intrinsically know that, hey, I always will figure it out like I always do. Anywho, thank you for listening. Remember, Black Girl Say Something airs an episode every Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am doing something special on YouTube called Vlogtober, where I'm going to go live for a few minutes every day for the month of October. In past, I've done an episode of the podcast for every month of October. I think I've put those together over on YouTube last year, but this year I'm going to do it on YouTube. I'm not going to do it here on the podcast. As well as you can follow us on TikTok, like us on Facebook, and subscribe to Patreon. Over on Patreon, I'll list some free content, but I'm going to post some exclusive content for the month of October. And I thank you all for listening. And if you have an opportunity, depending on where you're listening, kindly leave us a review of the podcast. That would greatly make my month and definitely push the podcast out to more people who don't know about Black Girl Say Something. Until next time, thank you for listening.